I am so happy to be here again with our friends at PAC 14, and we'll always be happy that they're able to post our videos on YouTube. And I'm also excited because we are here again with my Director of Administration, Bunky Luffman. So Bunky, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, definitely.
Yeah, so we are super excited. We have a very packed show for you today. There were a lot of things that happened last night. As many of you may know, we did have a county council meeting last night, and a lot happened during that meeting. And so we're going to go ahead and start off with our recap of the county council meeting and our reaction to the things that transpired. So I have actually the council agenda right here, so I'm going to just kind of go through it this way. So starting off, I think the biggest thing, of course, was Resolution 114-2023. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. Actually, we are going to jump back up to number 2. Sorry, the veto of the bill. And that was a huge ordeal. Our last show, we vetoed the bill right here on the television itself on the screen, and then we took it over to county council. What were your thoughts on the council overriding the veto?
Well, unfortunately, it was predictable that they were doing that, and it's really unfortunate when there have been mayors, business people, real estate agents, concerned citizens from across the board, bipartisan, that have come in and said them to reconsider, and it was just they didn't gain traction with this council, unfortunately.
Yeah, I made a public comment last night, which we'll get to, but more importantly, I know that there were emails sent. I know that there was a whole social media platform that designated time and kind of an effort to get the council to potentially reconsider. And unfortunately, as you said, we kind of predicted that it would fall on deaf ears. So the council did override the veto with a 6-1 vote. James Wynn holding strong for us here. But I think the biggest thing to keep in mind, too, is that this is not just about the two people. This isn't just about Matt Leitzel and Heather Langford. This is about Wacomico County employees. And I know that we had a conversation with our HR director, Donna O'Hara. Can you kind of talk a little bit about why employees would be very nervous about this override?
So there are two things. There's, sort of the appointment process, which is contentious and will likely end up in court. But then over and above that, council's step to defund charter positions, 2 of which are filled, is really a step toward a place that hurts us in recruitment and retainment of employees, because since these 2 individuals are being paid because, as the county attorney says, they should be. They are legal. His legal opinion is that they are appointments in good stead, and they're fine to be paid. The council disagrees with that. And with their defunding mechanism, another reason this has to go to court is I don't know where the guardrail would be on them defunding other things. They can legislate or craft or create chaos in our office in our attempts to sort of run the day-to-day operations of the county in a very inappropriate way by just defunding things. And honestly, that's sort of what it looks like is going to happen if this should stand, where we need a leadership of Public Works. We need Public Works Director, Deputy Public Works Director, because they have, the landfill, they have roads, and they have engineering, which are vitally important, not just for county functions, but also the private sector. So them defunding that is bad enough, but then the potential that they could defund other positions that, for no real reason given. I mean, they could at any moment say, we don't think this person's qualified, that person's qualified, and there's no objective way or objective standard for us to push back on it.
Yeah.
And so we really feel like it's inappropriate for them to defund, particularly since they voted to fund those positions just a few months ago.
I know, it's really frustrating, and I don't know how to ease the minds of our employees to where I can say, well, don't worry, it's not going to happen to you. If they had just done the assistant director of administration and maybe the deputy director of public works, where these 2 people potentially were, then it's obviously a personnel or a personal issue between those 2. But the fact that they added in the director of public works, where the position is sitting vacant and we are actively looking, it really just does not set a good feeling like for anybody in the GOB, in our organization whatsoever, whether at the Civic Center or out at Solid Waste or with roads. And so it is a little disheartening. So we have to figure out a way to kind of keep the morale up at the government building. We'll get a little bit more into what that means with the fact that the council did override the veto a little bit later on in the show. Moving on to the next resolution, I found this one so crazy. So the council voted to waive any potential conflict regarding Paul Wilbur and his law office when it came to representing the executive, when it comes to the appointments and pay. And we've had this conversation with Mr. Wilbur, and he has been very honest with us from day one, stating, I am conflicted. I am the county attorney. I do business with the county council. I do business with the executive. And for some reason, the council feels that they have the voting power to waive that conflict. And so I just want to know what your thoughts were on that. It was kind of crazy to me where he's saying I'm conflicted, and then they're saying, no, don't worry about it. You're not conflicted anymore.
Well, and so as the Department of Law, essentially, Mr. Wilbur's firm operates for the whole county, for both the county council and the county executive's office. And if he's involved directly in a lawsuit in the way that they want him to be, I think that then that potentially, after the lawsuit is resolved, they could potentially have animus toward him in his law firm in a way that's inappropriate, especially since I firmly believe Mr. Wilbur's opinion, and I believe we will prevail in court. So in the aftermath of that, of us prevailing in court, what's it going to look like with Mr. Wilbur and his firm still being the county attorney when you have potentially 6 very, not happy people in the county council who've just lost in court? So Mr. Wilbur, to his credit, has said, listen, why don't you get them outside attorney, get her an outside counsel, and then I can sort of remain above the fray. I've given my opinion, and I'll remain above the fray. And they don't want that. They apparently want him or someone from his firm to represent the executive.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was kind of interesting, too, last night when I did mention this. So Mr. Wilbur gave his opinion, and you and I, this office, we've been very transparent about his opinion. We've posted it online. We sent it out to the media because we want people to see that we're not acting in bad faith. This is not something that we're stomping our feet and throwing a temper tantrum about. We do have our county attorney's opinion. And what was interesting is that I did in my comment, which again we'll talk about a little bit later, but I did say it would be kind of nice if we had Mr. Mitchell's written opinion, which we do not have a copy of yet. So we'll see if we get that. I know that there was some question about client attorney privilege, and I do remember Mr. Wilbur saying as soon as you share that opinion, you're kind of letting that go, that county or the client attorney privilege situation. But I do think it's important. I think it's important, for the faith of the citizens to see that, okay, there really is 2 opinions right now, because really there's not. There's a verbal opinion and this written opinion. So it would be kind of interesting to see what happens with that.
And one thing I would challenge people on, or ask them or request them to do, who currently find themselves agreeing with the county council on this, is we have been nothing but transparent. Paul Wilbur's opinion is literally on the county website. We'll email it to anyone. We've said that. The county council, it appears as of now, has a written legal opinion that they are shielding behind attorney-client privilege or hiding behind. And I would say, how can you agree with the council when you don't even know what their opinion is? Mm-hmm. The executive office is literally the only office that's shared the county attorney opinion. And the extent that, Mr. Cannon obviously is free. I'm not an attorney. You're not an attorney. He's not an attorney. But we're all free to obviously talk about our opinion on it. But when you and I talk about this case, we always point back to the legal opinion of the county attorney, where the council doesn't have that the legal mooring, because, or at least publicly, we don't know that they have it because they refuse to, as of now, share any sort of written opinion by the county council attorney.
And then the last resolution that I wanted to talk about was the fact that the council, we were asking them for $150,000 and Bill Hudson, again, and the writ of mandamus that we had filed before was compelling them to vote, and they did vote on it. What was interesting is that, they did give us a hard time. Where did we come up with this money? And I thought Pam Olin did a great job when she said, we are mirroring exactly what you asked for. And so that's kind of where that number came from. And it does seem astronomical. But again, it was proving a point because they heard that number and thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is too much money. And then to realize it was based on, your budgetary needs and your budgetary wants as to what you put forward. And what was interesting is that they voted and then they didn't realize what they were voting for because they all voted yes to give me the attorney and the $150,000, and then they retracted it and then revoted, and it was I think it was 6-1 on that as well. Yeah. So in favor of no, that we're not going to give her the $150,000, and no, we're not going to bring on Bill Hudson. And it sort of made sense the way that these were aligned, the way that they kind of presented these, the veto, the override of the veto, saying, hey, Mr. Wilbur, you're not conflicted anymore because we as the council apparently have the power to do so, and then denying, Mr. Hudson. So it will be interesting. I know Mr. Wilbur is going to take all of that back to his partners and kind of reiterate what happened, and I think have a discussion, and I guess we'll do a follow-up with him to see what's going to happen with that.
Well, and given that the council has operated in some sort of secrecy when it comes to the legal opinion, we can only glean things from what they say publicly. Councilman Hastings did say that if the lawsuit goes forward, he believes that you should have an attorney. So it sounded like it sounded to me, and this is me reading tea leaves, that at least a member, if not multiple members of the council, just believe on its face that a judge is going to refuse to hear this under the premise that of separation of powers, or the county can't sue itself. Though we're not asking, this is not a monetary lawsuit or criminal lawsuit, any of that. We're just asking for an interpretation for a judge. And I would think, obviously, there needs to be a mechanism when the two portions of government disagree on language to get an interpretation. And that mechanism is court. So it makes logical sense to me that the court would step in and be the arbiter of this language. But he did at least seem open to that. So that was positive. Now that's potentially still a 2-5 vote or 5-2. So.
Right. Well, I also found it kind of interesting, too, that they all have agreed, and I don't know if it's on the record or just kind of out in public, that whatever the judge says they will adhere to. I don't know if they'll have a choice at that point. Neither would we at that point. But it's interesting, though, that we'll adhere to what the judge says, but we're going to go ahead and defund the positions. So it's just kind of interesting where it's like, we're just going to go ahead and tie the hands a little bit here to the side, while we wait on whatever you're going to do. So, and that sort of leads us into our next actions. And as I have told the citizens of Wicomico County, I will always be transparent with you. I will always let you know what we're getting ready to do. And based on what the council did last night with overriding the veto, we do have to move forward and get ready to file not only I guess it would be an additional lawsuit, even though I didn't consider the writ of mandamus a lawsuit, but I guess maybe, I don't know if it's considered a lawsuit or not. I didn't think it was, but different type of lawsuit than what's getting ready to be filed now. And then also we will be filing a stay on the legislation because this legislation will go into effect November 5th. And so we will be asking for a stay. And it is not to keep illegal or, bad employees in place. It's because we're waiting on an answer from the courts. And we think that it's very important to get that answer before we start firing people or moving people into different positions. And, not to get emotional about it because I am trying to be very matter of fact on this, but I think sometimes we forget that these are two individuals. These are two people that are parents, they're moms, they're hard workers, they're people who want to do really good things for the county and they want to be here. And it's just hard, you know what I mean? Because it's so hard that they're kind of on this seesaw and we just don't know which way it's going to go. And so it's just kind of a waiting game. So did you want to add anything in for the next steps?
Well, and just to boldface that the council seems to want to not go to court. And they could do that simply by agreeing with the county attorney's opinion, which are these two are valid appointments. And then in his opinion, he also said he sees these as two valid appointments, and he encouraged the council and the executive to get together with a process that works for the future. So that's how they could end this today.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And the other thing is, too, is that, and this sort of goes into public comment and council comment, but one thing that I wanted to say is that it keeps getting reiterated by the county council, several members of the county council, that we are somehow, we were told no, that these people were not good for the position, and that we decided to hire them anyway. And it's a lot more complicated than that. It's a lot more complex. And so I want to read the language from the charter as it's, as it says in here, and then I want to kind of explain where we are coming from. So this is section 315. You all can look it up. It's under confirmation of appointments. And as I read it, there's some commas in there, there's some prepositional phrases in there, there's things that make this a different meaning than I think the way the council is interpreting it. But it says, if the council fails to act to confirm or reject any appointment within 45 days of its submission to the county council at its legislative session by the county executive, the appointment shall stand approved. And our point was, we are not arguing that the county council doesn't want Matt Leitzel as the Assistant Director of Administration. We're not arguing that they don't want Heather in any acting role in Public Works. That's not what we're arguing. We fully acknowledge that. And I think Josh Hastings said it last night, where he said, if they were to be put forward today, the result would still be the same. Our point was, they did not vote. They did not do their due diligence by confirming or rejecting, and that's all they had to do. That is all they had to do. All they had to do was come out of the closed session, and we'll talk about that in a minute with public comment, but they could come out of the closed session, go right into legislative session, and vote. And they did not do it. At the end of the day, that's the piece. It's not the fact whether they wanted them or not. We know how they felt. They sent us an email saying that they couldn't come to a consensus. I asked for a reconsideration, and the reason I asked for a reconsideration is because they had not voted yet. And then when they didn't vote, 45 days passed, and Mr. Wilbur's telling us the appointment stands. And it had happened before. It had happened before. And I know we were kind of keeping those cards close, but you all at home, if you are avid researchers of all of this, if you look at the minutes from January of 2020 on Jackie Curry, who used to be our HR director, the same thing happened. And even more so on that, all that was given to the council was the resolution, the very thing that they said that I didn't do for Matt, and they're yelling and complaining saying it wasn't a submission. So, like I said, that discrimination or that the way the process works, it's very convoluted. And so, like I said, we are not arguing that they didn't want those people. We're arguing that they did not vote. They did not confirm or reject, and when that happens, after 45 days, the appointment stands.
Yeah, they had 45 days to vote on it, up or down, in open session. And it makes sense for transparency in government, for open government, that our charter would compel them to act. You cannot go into closed session and hide on an appointment like this, send an email that's not public, and then expect that to be all there is. The charter compels you to vote in 45 days in a legislative session, and they failed to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of goes into the council comments. So, and even the public comments. So public comments, there was some for me, that were very supportive of me. And then there were some that were in support of the council. And I think that that's pretty fair. I mean, it was kind of balanced there. And I thought that I think it was rough on both sides. I think both me and the council got a tongue lashing from several people. I think at one point in time, I don't like the comment because it was bad against me, but the Wizard of Oz comment was, it was kind of funny, but it is what it is. And like I said, you're going to have people who feel very strongly on one side, and you're going to have people that feel very strongly on the other. And that's okay, but going into their comments, and I kind of wanted to start with Council President at the end. Again, I think, they're missing the main point, is that we're not saying that you didn't want these people. We know you didn't. But you didn't vote. You did not do your job as a legislator and vote in 45 days, period. Mm-hmm. That's it. I mean, at the end of the day. I know Councilman Merritt had mentioned social media, and I do agree. I do feel like the council is getting kind of beat up on social media. But again, it's a different platform, and I think it's important. A lot of people utilize social media, Instagram and Facebook, and I mean, I don't do Snapchat or TikTok. I don't know if you do or not, but I don't do either of those. But we utilize that to get out to constituents. There are 4,000 people on my social media, and I think it's important for them to hear from me. You share a lot of my stuff too, so they hear from both of us as to what's going on in the county. And then Ms. Shaney said something, and it kind of struck me as when she said, what is it with these two people? Why these two people? Why is she fighting us for these two people? And what I want to say to Ms. Shaney, and actually to a lot of people who may think the same thing, it's not about Matt and Heather. It's not. In this case, it is Matt and Heather, but in this case, it's about right and wrong. And I don't care who was in that position. I would be fighting for them because that's what I do. I fight for what's right. I have done that since I've been in office. You know how hard we worked on the accidental disability, hours and hours for our deputies, and because it was the right thing to do. Was it hard? Absolutely. Were there days where I wanted to throw in the towel? Absolutely, but that is just not in my nature, to do so. So, did you have anything to add on any of the comments or anything?
No, and not to mention, if we weren't to, if you weren't fighting the battle, then what does that portend for our future appointments? Then any appointment we have, they're going to go in closed session, make a determination, closed session, email us, and the person's never going to see the light of day. And through their reading of the charter, and Councilman Wynn got to this, the 45-day clock never begins. By their reading,
right.
They read this as the 45-day clock doesn't begin till they have it in open legislative session. And that's not our reading of the submission or the clock.
No, we read it as the executive makes a submission, the 45-day clock starts, and they have 45 days to confirm or reject the submission. I mean, it's very simple to me. And the one thing, though, that was kind of frustrating was the comment that was made, and I think it was by President Cannon, when he said, we've never denied the executive a type of session that she wanted. And we know that to not be true at all. I feel almost like this was purposely done, but it wasn't to try to get them or trick them. We had an LMB appointment, and we wanted to get this done quickly because LMB is based on a lot of grants, and when Jamie Riley took the job at the state, we were kind of in the midst of that, right? So we were right in the middle of all of that grant and wrapping things up, and so we needed to get somebody in there quickly. And we asked specifically for it to be in open session, and we also provided the resolution. We didn't wait for them to provide a resolution. We provided everything to get it on there, and we were denied. We were denied. We were told, no, you don't get it in open session. You don't get this because we do closed session because that's the council's process. Matthew McConaughey, you mentioned this too, our health officer. The state needed us to move rather quickly on the health officer, and we asked for it, hey, can you please come out of closed session once you meet him and then vote on it? And they said no, that we had to wait 2 weeks for legislative session. So even though we asked, so we have asked for things and we have not gotten them. So we do not dictate the council agenda. We do not dictate what type of session it's going to go in. I can ask for open, they put it in closed. I can ask for closed, they put it in open. And it's just comical to me that they're saying, we've given you every single thing, and that's just not the case.
Well, and with Mr. McConaughey, we also asked if they would do a special session to pass him quickly, and that was turned down as well.
Right, that we had to wait 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, which was really frustrating too. So there are probably other examples too where we've asked for things, in open, they put them in closed, or we've asked for closed and put them in open. So, we can ask all we want, but that's all it is, so.
And that's the council's prerogative. So that's fine. If we ask for open and they want to do closed, then they're able to do that. We don't question the power of that. But then you can't go in front of the public and say we've given her any kind of session she's wanted, because it's just not factually accurate. No,
it's not. And there were a lot of things, and that kind of gets into my public comment, and then we can move on to some good and better stuff. So my public comment, I tried very hard to keep my cool, because it is very hard. I can be a little feisty up there, and I know that. But I wanted to correct a lot of things. The fact that we didn't get the Andy Mitchell's opinion yet. The fact that it was mentioned why council had the $150,000. It was said in a budget meeting that it was because I potentially said I was going to sue them. So there were just things that I think needed to kind of be straightened out. And I really do hope Mr. Benson takes my advice. This is the new council attorney, if you weren't aware, that he does go and sit with Paul Wilbur. Because I think it's important, because I also think the council thinks that we're going to walk next door and literally only have Mr. Wilbur's opinions. We don't. We have a lot of discovery, like a lot of things that are coming with us, as our evidence, to support this. So I think it's important for them to understand, and I think he would have a much, and I don't want to say better because that's not the right word, but he would have a more well-rounded understanding of what exactly is happening. Because right now he's only hearing one side, and it is the council's side, but I think it would behoove him to listen to Mr. Wilbur and sit down and have that conversation.
Yeah, and in order for, and I've known, to be really open and honest, I've known Mr. Benson for a long time. I was obviously planning and zoning chair in Delmar and on the council and the deputy mayor. He's the town attorney of Delmar, so I've known him a long time. I like him. I think he's a good guy. But what I heard last night was the first time I'd ever heard him talk about it. I think his view is on the submission. It sounded like what he was saying is it wasn't submitted in a legislative session, which is back to sort of what previous things had done. But of course, we view it as we submitted, went, and they chose closed session, and then they needed to follow up. But the Benson model, or it's not just his because it predates him, but that model that they're talking about, they think the county executive needs to submit a candidate that they put in closed session, then resubmit the candidate a second time with a resolution, and that is just nowhere to be found in the charter.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that whole thing is frustrating. But anyway, we will keep you up to date on everything that's going on, with the legislation. We'll have a little bit more probably in episode 3 because we'll have some movement after the vote last night. But I just want to kind of wrap up. I know it'll take us a little bit, but we've got some really good highlights too. So there are some, kind of treacherous things going on in the county, and we know that, but there are also some really, really good things, and we want to make sure to end on a really good note with those highlights. So first and foremost, if you saw my Facebook page yesterday, we went around and we talked about the Employee of the Month and the Department of the Month. We had a lot of great nominees, and we chose Corey Houston as our Employee of the Month overall. She's done so much. I mean, she's helped move, HR upstairs. Donna was out with her surgery, and she has just been so great in human resources and such a great advocate for us and just helping us in any way, shape, or form. And I just couldn't agree more with that. And then we also named LMB as the Department of the Month, which was awesome because of their move and just everything. And they have a new LMB director, Tim Bosman, and he's great. And they're just doing great things over there. So we were really happy to have them. And then we went to the county kickoff, which was near and dear to my heart because it was the only time really at the county kickoff where I wasn't antsy to get out of there to go work in my classroom, because this is the first time in 18 years that I won't be setting up a classroom. What did you think of the kickoff?
Oh, it was great. They had a really great speaker, and it was great seeing teachers. It was really cool for me walking by Delmar Elementary, where I went. Of course, I went to high school in Delaware, so my high school wasn't there. Unfortunately, Delmar High is in Delaware. But it was great seeing all the Delmar Elementary School students. My kids aren't that far removed from going to Delmar Elementary, so it was great seeing people that I know.
Yeah, it was. And and it was kind of nice. I don't know if it was strategically done. I'm going to pretend that it was, but I was right in front of JMB, which was the school that I was at before I left, and it was really nice seeing everybody. So it was really good. Great speaker. Hamish, I think his name is. Yeah. Was it Brewster? Is that how you say his last name? Was it Brewster? Yeah. He was awesome. I thought he did a great job, and I hope all the teachers are inspired, and today's their first day of school for everyone back. So my son went this morning. He was not happy, but I was happy that he was going back to school.
So I continued my tradition of I let the kids off. So my youngest two are 12 and 14, and they get a few steps from the car in front of all their friends, and then I yell out the window, "I love you," which of course they
Do you honk the horn too?
I've done that in the past. My wife told me not to do it this year.
All right. And then we had the Chamber of Commerce had Governor Westmore, which was great. I thought he did a really great job. I think that he very much laid out his plan. I think there was a lot of yeses, and then he kind of, there you say, we've got to be very strategic. We're not saying no to everything, but we do have to be strategic about things, and we're really hoping that the airport and the hangar that we want to put over there for the, for the school with UMES is a part of that. And I will be meeting with the budget secretary, which is really exciting, with Delegate Anderton in 2 weeks, so that's really exciting. And then I got to go to He Cook Fest. You didn't get to go. College kid backed into your car or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's terrible.
That's true.
Yeah, but He Cook Fest, always a good time. I have to give a big shout out to Doug Marshall. Just a great job on everything. And the town of Del Mar. I mean, they are just so awesome and just really embrace, not just, this event is Keith He Cook, and it's about Keith He Cook, but it's about every fallen officer, and it's become such a symbol of that. And so I love being a part of that and seeing the community out there and just embracing that Back the Blue community. I think it's just awesome. And then I think 2 other things. This Friday, you have the special secretary, the opioid, what is that, responder, I guess?
Response.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the opioid response. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting here. And that's Emily, right?
Emily Keller, who's great. She used to be the mayor of Hagerstown, and Governor Moore appointed her to that role. And she's doing great at it, and I look forward to seeing her at Warwick on Friday.
Yeah, I've met Emily. She's very cool, and so I think that she is a great addition to the Moore administration. I think that she's going to do great things in this role. And then last but not least, I got to give a big shout out to Frank Hanna and Brew River. They have their boat docking, the 15th annual. So I'm sure that there'll be some surprises for Mr. Hanna while we're there, but we are super excited about that, and so we will be there. But other than that, great things going on in the county. We're still moving forward. We have a lot of great events, a lot of people that are, supporting us. And we really hope that you learned something today, that you see that even though we're kind of, doing like this with the council, we are doing great things in the county. And so I look forward to the next episode of the Executive Exclusive. Bunky, thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And one thing you'll probably hear next episode is about Pirates Wharf, just to kind of
Yes, we hope, and hopefully we'll have some pictures. We'll have some new pictures, so that way everybody can see it and people will get out there. Maybe we might have the ribbon cutting by then. We'll see what happens. So there should be a soft ribbon cutting coming up. And actually, it'll be like a soft launch. I don't even think it'll be a ribbon cutting, but we'll get people out there, so it'll be exciting. Yep. So, all right, well, we look forward to seeing you next time, and thank you all for tuning in.